When you're ready.
Experimenting on the human genome is a widely discussed topic with the discovery of treatments and therapies in the past decade. When researching this topic, we looked at multiple lenses and arguments before coming to a final conclusion. Today we will explore the futuristic, ethical, economic, and social lenses and perspective to gene editing. It is important when exploring this topic that we explain the why. Experimenting on the human genome can positively impact the world, especially in medicine. Human genome editing can prevent and further explore treatment options for genetic diseases. It gives opportunity to people who are born or develop genetic disease to go through treatments or even be cured. It also gives opportunity for babies and embryos who will be born with diseases and congenital cases. Continued research on gene editing in the human genome will pave the way for the future to hopefully make more discoveries. With our investigative question being, should we experiment on the human genome? We came up with the conclusion of yes, experimenting on the human genome should be allowed, but within futuristic, economic, ethical, and social reasoning. Next, KK will be talking about the futuristic lens and what it looks like through gene editing through medicine, sports, and agriculture.
As doctors continue experimenting with the future of genetic modification in medicine, forms of deafness and blindness may be treated before children are born, in addition to congenital diseases and far-reaching diseases like cancer and heart disease. Finally, although researchers are in the process of studying these currently, gene therapy is currently accessible in the United States. As you can see in the chart above, the life expectancy at birth in 2020 was 78.8 years of age. However, with these options, they hope this chart increases. Sean Radcliffe, a scientific researcher, begins to explain off-target cuts could lead to unexpected genetic problems that cause an embryo to die, and editing the wrong gene could also create a new genetic disease that would be passed on to future generations. This quote explains researchers must have extensive amounts of practice to ensure the patient is kept safe. The future of sports. The changes listed above were discovered in 2008 when Wells studied modified rodents and found these manipulations could additionally be used on humans. In addition to this experiment, the genes NCOR1 and ACTN3 were discovered to help future athletes in their overall athletic performance. In 2005, Carson found they inhibited building muscle tissues and increased the strength and endurance of the overall athlete. With this being said, athletes using illegal substances to increase their sports performance may experience these through legal actions. The future of agriculture. As the demand for food production increases, genetically modified organisms will allow farmers to reach these inflated demands. Additionally, GMOs will protect crops against pests and increase biodiversity. Yes, but it is crucial to perceive the vast consequences which come along with using GMO in everyday agriculture. These organisms introduce health concerns including pesticide, toxicity, allergies, and proneness to serious illness. As seen above, GMO food sold within grocery stores must be labeled so consumers know the possible consequences of consuming these certain foods.
Now Tori is going to talk about the ethical lens, where she will explore how ethics play into gene editing with consent and sports enhancement.
When researching ethics in the human genome, I found it was important to find a balance between the benefits of editing the human genome and the principles of autonomy and informed consent. Individuals should have the right to make decisions of the genetic modifications of their offspring. Either choice is to use the technology to help their children or to have their child through natural means. A decision I think should always be allowed. Accurate information about risk and benefits of genetic information is important for clear decision making and understanding consequences of these technologies. When thinking about the child itself, the discussions of consent are debated. Children cannot give consent at the time these technologies can be used. But my counter-argument to this is parents make decisions for their children all the time, whether to give them certain vaccines or even the flu shot. So if this is truly for the health of the child, I would hope most parents would do it. This brings me to our next point, which is the ethics of enhancement. There's a stark difference between editing genes in an embryo to prevent a child from being born with sickle cell anemia than editing genes to alter the appearance and intelligence of future generations. This quote by Mary Todd Bergman, a scientific writer for the Harvard Gazette, illustrates my point exactly. Gene editing should be used for improving human health, not unethical pursuits. Manipulation of our genetic code for non-therapeutic purposes can ruin the moral and ethical foundations of our society. With structure for these modifications, the risk of unethical modification will be highly used in our society, in our world.
Now Grace is going to talk about the economical lens, where we should explore economics and gene editing when it comes to medical treatments and employment.
Carrier screens are one way that we are able to identify gene variants, which help parents make more knowledgeable decisions. This helps in cases when diseases run in the family and parents want to know whether they are carriers or not before they decide to procreate. Whether you choose to perform these tests prenatally or postnatally, they help individuals make medical decisions and plan follow-up healthcare strategies while using evidence-based practices. Although gene testing may range from $100 to over $1,000. Insurance is more likely to cover the testing if the pregnancy is at high risk for genetic or chromosome conditions such as cystic fibrosis or Down syndrome. Newer technology in gene testing, such as exome sequencing, which is around 15 years old, costs a lot more than surname screening, which is around 40 years old. Utilizing this technique may save families and research companies time and money and leads to a clear pathway of solving the disease. Without screen testing, it results in several tests and treatments performed on an individual, which costs a lot of money and may never give them a clear, definitive answer. It is also important to keep in mind keeping the testing options financially available for everyone, especially the lower class who may not be able to afford thousands of dollars of medical treatments and thousands of dollars of medical testings. The economics of employment. Experiments on the human genome open up opportunities from employment, especially high-wage paying jobs. In this field, it requires a high degree of education, but the salary will compensate for the years of schooling. As the field expands, it calls for more scientists and researchers to fill these positions and brainstorm new, innovative ideas and experiments. Simon Tripp and Martin Gruber state that direct jobs in genetic and genomics sector pay more than $130,000 in annual total compensation, income, and benefits per worker, while the total jobs supported by the human genetics and genomics economic activity, direct and induced, average greater than $81,000 in compensation per employee. Jobs directly in the field include healthcare, research, and biotechnology. Jobs indirectly supported include supply chains and service industries. Just in 2019 alone, the field supported more than 850,000 employment opportunities, which is beneficial to the genetics field as it continues to expand in professions.
Now Addy is going to talk about the social and cultural lens, where she will explore the effects of gene editing and the potential positive or negative outcomes that come into integrating this into our society.
Quality of life and sense of community are two facets to a functioning society. Many studies have shown a direct correlation between quality of life and our overall sense of community. The goal is to use human genetic engineering to improve quality of life, which would in turn improve our societal sense of community and belonging. The question is how? One way we can use this technology is by eliminating disease to improve our mental and physical well-being. Gene editing can cure and eliminate diseases, as KK mentioned earlier. A study done by the UK Mental Health Foundation found that individuals with a chronic disease also report having at least one mental health concern. By improving our mental and physical health, we can work towards growing closer as a society. Another way to benefit society is by reducing social discrimination, specifically focusing on those with autism spectrum disorder. ASD is a neurological disorder that causes children and adults to struggle with social interaction. This is a graph of a survey taken by the National Library of Medicine asking parents of children with autism how their child's behavior has affected them. As you can see, both the parent and the child are affected. Trials are currently being done using human gene editing to correct the specific genes linked to ASD. This would eliminate the social barriers that these individuals face and lower the discrimination.
Overall, gene editing is important for the future of our society, as well as for the future of medicine. But it's crucial that as scientists begin to make more advanced discoveries, that they consider the ethics, economics, and social effects that it can have on society.
Let's give them a round of applause. Tori, give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Addy's findings.
My thinking's changed when thinking about Addy's lens because she talked about bringing society closer together, and when she talked about specifically autism disorder, I never really thought about how those individuals feel separated from our society, so I thought it was important that she talked about how gene editing can help integrate them into our society and help make them feel more comfortable.
Okay, thank you. KK, what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team's presentation, and why did you decide to exclude it?
We decided not to include Grace's argument on what gene editing can do to the economy because we felt that with Grace's argument on what gene editing can do to economics and Addy's argument on what gene editing does to society and the overall community, that we didn't need to include an argument about what the economy did as well.
Okay, thank you. Grace, if you had another team member, because you need one more, what other perspectives or limitations could they have researched that would have helped made a useful contribution to your project?
A perspective that would be useful to this would be the historical and political lens, because not everyone is going to agree on the rules of gene editing, and politics will become more important as we explore this topic further. Politics and politicians will play an important role as deciding the laws and rules that will be on gene editing, and if we had this perspective in our group, it would be a lot easier to come to a conclusion.
Okay, Ava, what is a way in which your team's conclusion makes you think differently about your own individual research?
When researching, I found a lot of information from scientific perspective, which tended to be in favor of gene editing. However, after learning more about my group members' topics and coming to a resolution as a group, which was yes, I took into consideration the possible negative effects that gene editing could have on society, individual people, and the economy, which is how we eventually came up with the yes but solution instead of just yes.
Okay, thank you. And Addy, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that the group identified?
I would say Tori's, because she really showed both sides of the argument, because I didn't really think before about the sports aspect and how genetic engineering could be used as enhancement like steroids and other drugs.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause.